and they were never found. Hello YouTube, today we will be talking about 5 disappearances. These are the cases of Kyron Horman.
Well, today marks 14 years since Kyron Horman went missing. The second grader was last seen at Skyline School in Northwest Portland. He's never been found.
Angela Hammond.
Could there be a new motive in a cold case investigators have been trying to solve for 30 years? Angela Hammond, a 20-year-old pregnant woman, was abducted off the street in Clinton, Missouri, and hasn't been seen since.
Ben McDaniel.
Where is Ben McDaniel? No one has any idea what happened to Ben McDaniel that day.
Mary Shotwell Little.
Mary Shotwell Little. In 1965, Little, a bank secretary, vanished into the night outside Lenox Square.
And Jennifer Kesse.
19 years without answers and 19 years without an arrest or even confirmation that she's no longer alive. That's the pain the family of Jennifer Kesse has been dealing with since her disappearance in Orlando on this day back in 2006.
According to the National Public Radio, or NPR, for every 661,000 people who are declared missing, about 659,000 of them are either found or the case is canceled, meaning most likely the person who filed the report found where the person was. In other words, about 99% of the people who are reported missing yearly are found. The 5 cases I bring to you today are part of that 1%. Feel free to share your thoughts and theories down in the comments of what you believe happened to some of these people.
It's hard, but there's times where I just have to remember all the good that comes of this and all the people that care for Kyron and want to fight for him.
Life can be heartbreakingly unfair, especially when it is stolen away from you before it can truly begin, such as the case for Kyron Horman, a young boy from Portland, Oregon who vanished, leaving behind unanswered questions and a family desperate for answers. Kyron was born September 9th, 2002. His parents, Kyron Horman and Desiree Young's relationship ended before his life began, meaning they got a divorce before he was born. During this time, it is suggested Kyron may have been involved with another woman as well. Her name is Terry Moulton. It is unclear if this relationship attributed to their separation, or perhaps it was convenient timing. Either way, most of Kyron's early childhood was spent in joint custody between his parents. This continued until about 2004, when Kyron was given full custody of Kyron due to his mother developing kidney failure. Despite this, she continued to be present in Kyron's life, up until his disappearance in 2010. On the morning of June 4th, 2010, Kyron and his stepmother Terry attended a science fair early in the morning. She left the school around 8:45 and stated she left Kyron as he was walking down the hall to his class. Kyron, Terry, and their daughter Kiara waited at the bus stop for Kyron to come home later that day. To their shock, Kyron did not get off the bus, and when Kyron asked the bus driver about his son, the driver stated that he had never boarded the bus. Terry then called the school secretary to ask about Kyron's whereabouts. She informed her he had not been seen since the early hours of that day, presumably during the science fair, and that he had been marked absent. This prompted the secretary to call the police and file a missing persons report. The search for Kyron begun almost immediately. The primary focus area was a 2-mile radius around Skyline Elementary School. Police also searched Sauvie Island, an area about 6 miles away from the school. Police have not publicly disclosed why this area was being investigated. However, there have been previous missing persons who have been found in that area. So that may be related, but that's just speculation. The first 48 hours of a missing persons case are the most crucial. Due to this, manpower was primarily focused on the last place he was seen, in and around the school. Despite these extensive efforts, there was no evidence that Kyron was ever even in the school. Over the next 10 days, over 1,300 volunteers searched for any sign of the young boy. Unfortunately, nothing was found. This led investigators to identify potential suspects quickly.
Well, John, Kyron's mother, Desiree Young, is still fighting to bring her son home, while also helping other parents with missing children. Today, she held her yearly car wash to raise money for his search, hoping to have a more aggressive approach, like hiring a private investigator and even creating a specialized task force.
News quickly spread internationally about Kyron. Any information leading to his discovery would come with a $25,000 reward, later increased to $50,000. This is the equivalent of about $72,000 during the making of this video. As time went on, no credible leads presented themselves. This led officials to question the last person he was seen with, his stepmother Terry. During initial interrogations, Terry gave an outline of her whereabouts on the day of Kyron's disappearance. At 8:45, Terry stated she left the school and ran to 2 separate Fred Meyer grocery stores. She said that she went to these locations to find medicine for their daughter, Kiara's earache. She drove around town from about 10 a.m. to noon, hoping the vehicle's motion would help soothe her pain. Around 12:40, she went to the gym. Later, she arrived back home around 1:30 and posted photos of Kyron at the science fair. Around 3:30 p.m., that's when the family discovered Kyron had never boarded the bus, and the rest is history. 2 separate polygraph tests were performed to verify these events. Terry failed both tests. However, polygraph tests do have a history of being inaccurate. The results are also not admissible in court, but it is worth pointing out. In June 2010, Kane informed investigators that Terry had offered their landscaper money to murder him earlier that year. Strange. The landscaper verified this. Rodolfo Sanchez stated she would provide, quote, a lot of money. This was denied by Terry initially. Investigators provided Sanchez with a wire to dig deeper into the possible motive and instructed him to speak to Terry privately to obtain a confession. I'm not sure if that's entirely legal, but despite their attempts, they could not get the answer they sought. Kane quickly filed for divorce from Terry and obtained a restraining order upon finding out this news. The investigators' next steps was to continue questioning those close to Terry. Their focus shifted to Dee Dee Spitzer. They had a lot of close communication leading up to Kyron's disappearance. With this new person of interest, authorities approached her with requests to search her vehicle and home. Surprisingly, she was very open to the investigation. She allowed them to search as they pleased and even provided an alibi for herself on the day of Kyron's disappearance. She also stated that she purchased an untraceable cell phone for Terry after she and Kane had separated. It is likely to have to do with some privacy concerns due to the investigation. Despite all of these extensive efforts, the grand jury cannot present compelling evidence to support Terry had kidnapped and/or murdered Kyron. Terry expressed sympathy for the disappearance throughout the trial and maintained her innocence. By December 2010, it is estimated the total cost of the investigation exceeded $1.5 million, or $2.1 million adjusted for today's inflation. Like many elementary schools, many parents and children are on the premises early in the morning. It can be challenging for school administrators and staff to keep track of anyone and everyone who comes onto the campus. Terry believes Kyron was kidnapped, and this is a very likely case. However, the true fate of Kyron is still a mystery today.
Police say they believe the intended target was the daughter of a law enforcement informant who had similar physical features to Angela.
Angela Hammond was a young woman who lived in Clinton, Missouri. She was known as a very promising young woman and very outgoing, loved by most around her. Quote, most. April 4th, 1991. On the night of her disappearance, Angela dropped off her boyfriend, Rob, at home, where she told him she would call him in a few hours. They had plans to go out again once Rob's mother came home. He was filling in his babysitter while she was away. Around 10 p.m., Angela called Rob from a payphone in town. See, this was a little before my time. As a child, the BlackBerry Bold 97 was earth-shattering technology with the keyboard. That was like the coolest shit ever. Imagine having to go to these phone stations that are around town and pay $0.25 to talk to someone for 10 minutes. Pretty crazy. Angela, who was about 7 blocks from Rob, talked to him about their day. As some time went by, Angela told Rob about a pickup truck that had passed by a few times. She described it as an old green Ford pickup. She did not pay it much mind until the truck stopped next to the payphone she was using. Initially, the driver approached the payphone next to her and looked at it as if he was attempting to use it. When she asked if he needed help or if he wanted to use her phone, he told her no. He would try again in a minute. He then walked away, and Angela continued her conversation with Rob. Then, without warning, Rob heard screams on the other end of the line. All his attempts at getting her attention were met with screams and Angela trying to fight off her attacker. And with each passing moment, her screams became fainter as she was being pulled away from the phone. Rob ran out of his house immediately and quickly began making his way to where she was. On his way to her last known location, Rob saw a green pickup speeding by with a woman screaming the words, "Robbie." He quickly took chase after this truck, throwing the truck into reverse and tailing the vehicle. He chased the vehicle throughout downtown Clinton. Unfortunately, Rob damaged his transmission during the chase and was unable to keep up with the vehicle. He slowly lost ground until eventually all he could see was what he described as brake lights and dust. Rob quickly reported the kidnapping to authorities, noting that they should be looking for a green pickup truck with a fish decal on the rear windshield. Authorities identified a few potential matches, but the results were inconclusive as each truck they found showed no signs of foul play. Authorities also interviewed Rob, but he was quickly cleared of being a likely suspect. Due to his emotional response to the situation and the alibi of his brother, police began to work with the limited evidence they had. There were similar kidnappings within 10 miles of Angela. Both women were eventually located and discovered to have been murdered, both with similar gunshot wounds to the head. However, Angela remains the only one of these trio who has never been found, and her fate undetermined. Ben developed a strong interest in scuba diving at an early age. His father commented that his son practiced in a family pool with air tanks. As he grew older, his hobby became solo diving off the coast of Tennessee. At the age of 30, he took a sabbatical and spent the summer at his family's beach house in Florida. Ben took a peculiar interest in the Vortex Spring, a freshwater spring located near Ponce de Leon, Florida. The spring attracts many divers, professional and amateur alike. Ben was not a certified diver, and he was also cautioned about the dangers of the caves. However, he was described as being very confident, disregarding their warnings and going on solo dives. In mid-August 2010, Ben had come to a revelation from his sabbatical. He had found new inspiration to get his diving instructor's certificate and open up a diving-related business. He outlined this in a letter to his parents, promising to take care of them as they grew old. On August 18th, 2 employees of the nearby dive shop, Chuch Cronin and Eduardo Terran, witnessed Ben begin to descend into the water around 7:30 p.m. This is not unusual. Night diving was a widespread activity amongst visitors to the spring. When the shop opened the following morning, the dive shop workers noticed Ben's truck in the parking lot. Initially, they were not alarmed by this, as other customers had lingered in the area overnight. However, when 2 days had passed, the employees contacted authorities about the mysterious truck. Sheriffs quickly taped off the area and began to search for Ben. His wetsuit, compression tanks, and diving equipment were missing from the truck. Police quickly began to search the 2 most likely places he would be, the spring or his home. Police first visited his home. Here they located his dog, who showed hunger due to not being fed for the last 2 days. No other signs showed he or anyone else had been in the residence since his disappearance. Police initially presumed he had drowned. They utilized 2 cadaver dogs who had a positive alert on the spring. This, in addition to his equipment being missing from his truck, cemented the theory that he had perished in the spring. There is a cave located about 300 feet below the surface, which is the main attraction of the spring. Ben was likely seeking this cavern as well. At the cave entrance, a sign warns divers of the dangers ahead. With Ben's confidence, it's very likely he disregarded this message and continued on. Interestingly, divers who were searching for Ben discovered 2 decompression tanks located near the cave's entrance. These were quickly confirmed to be owned by McDaniels by the shop employees. Typically, divers will place these tanks along the exit path to assist the ascent to the surface. However, being 2 at the same location is not normal. Additionally, the tanks did not have the correct gas mixture for decompression, which is strange because Ben would have known this. Unfortunately, this is where the story of Ben McDaniels concludes, and his fate has not been confirmed, though it's likely drowning.
Her case file was larger with the FBI than the assassination of Bobby Kennedy. So just let that marinate for a minute.
Mary Little was a young woman who lived in the Atlanta, Georgia area in the 1960s. She was described as a content individual. Several of her co-workers stated she lived a very humble lifestyle and was just trying to make ends meet. However, Mary could have been holding on to some secrets. Her co-workers witnessed her in several tense phone conversations. The individual who had contacted her was never revealed, but she, quote, informed the other person that she was unable to contact them due to her being married. Interesting. She had also received several bouquets from a secret admirer. The full extent of the relationship was not entirely clear. On October 14, 1965, Mary was having dinner with a coworker. She was described as being in excellent spirits that day. She also spoke highly of her husband, stating that she was pleased with their marriage. This coworker would be the last person to see Mary alive. The following day, Mary did not arrive to work. Her boss asked around if anyone had seen her. The coworker who had dinner with her let him know of her whereabouts, and this led to him attempting to reach her and her parents. They had also been trying to reach Mary that day with no success. They contacted the police to file a missing persons report, and for about a week, police found no evidence of Mary's whereabouts. Eventually, her vehicle was located outside of a mall. This mall was located several miles from where she lived. When authorities searched her vehicle, they found a red dust on the center console and steering wheel. Her underwear, bra, clothes, and car keys were found inside of the car. The only thing that was missing was her wallet and purse. After this, the case continued cold for several weeks. Authorities were then notified that Mary's credit card had been used twice at separate gas stations within an hour of one another. When police interviewed the cashier, she stated that there were 2 men who made the purchases. She also noticed a woman in the car who appeared to be hurt and possibly bleeding. She could not confirm if this girl was Mary, and investigators continued to chase their tails for over 50 years on this case. The true fate of Mary is unknown, and she had likely been murdered, or maybe she wanted to start a new life somewhere else, maybe with that secret admirer. 18 months after the credit card incident, authorities were notified that one of Mary's co-workers was murdered, her body stuffed in a briefcase located in the trunk of a car. It is very possible this could have been the work of the same suspect, as historically, serial killers work in patterns. But that's just a theory.
I just personally think that someone from outside of this country had a job to do, came in and did that job. And Jennifer's just not here.
Jennifer Kesse was a young Florida native who resided in Orlando. The morning of January 23, 2006 was like any other day in Jennifer's life. She arrived at the Central Florida Investments timeshare company where she worked as a finance manager. Following the workday, she spoke to her parents around 6 p.m. before running her nightly errands. Around 10 p.m., Jennifer and her boyfriend had their nightly phone call before bed. He would be the last person to hear from her alive. The following morning, he attempted to call her and she did not answer. He tried several times, but the call went to voicemail each time. Around 11 a.m., Jennifer's job contacted her parents, as it was very unusual for Jennifer to no call, no show. They quickly contacted her boyfriend, who confirmed her absence, and this led them to come to her condo unit, where the property manager informed them everything seemed as normal. She had watched Jennifer leave that morning, and she appeared fine. Her front door was locked, but her car was missing. Authorities quickly searched for Jennifer, with almost no leads for the first 2 days. On January 26th, police were notified of a car parked at a hotel about 1 mile from her residence. They reviewed the hotel's security footage, and this is what the police ended up with. The person who dropped the car off is obscured behind a fence. This damn fence. When police located the vehicle, all of Jennifer's personal belongings were still in the car. Police were only able to find one small DNA strand, but it was not registered to anyone in their system. The car had been cleaned very thoroughly, and if there were any signs of foul play, they were gone. This led police to 2 conclusions. Robbery was not a motive, and the person who left the car there pays attention to detail. On top of this, individual being the single luckiest person of interest in a disappearance case, police now had virtually no information on them. Jennifer's family, local law enforcement, and the FBI offered substantial rewards for any information leading to this person. However, this case has remained cold for 19 years. Yes, I know in my last video I mentioned there would be a fallout iceberg.
Looks like there's been a change of plans.
Look, I finished the script, okay? I finished the script. I will likely release it when the 2nd season of the Fallout show comes out because, you know, algorithm. So just be patient with me, okay?